Have you ever reacted on impulse and allowed your emotions to dictate your response? This can have a wide ranging negative consequence, impacting your credibility, could impact relationships, could even impact your organizational culture. Today on the Champion Forum podcast, we discuss how the power of the pause can help you respond with composure and effectiveness.
This is the Champion Forum podcast with Jeff Hancher, the forum for leaders, champions, and dreamers.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, I am excited because I am responding to a listener question. This message comes from Mike, and Mike wrote, Jeff, I recently listened to your episode, When Tempers Flare. I absolutely loved the content, shared it with my leadership team. I'm the owner of a company and am building a system that will allow qualified employees to become part of a leadership program and be groomed for future leadership positions within our organization. A few of my current leaders are helping me with this initiative in grooming these future leaders. After listening to When Tempers Flare, these leaders that are helping me felt like a deeper dive into practical steps leaders can take to maintain composure under pressure would be fantastic. Can you give us some simple and practical steps that we can share with this group that we are training for future leadership roles? Love it. Thanks for listening in, Mike, and thanks for the question. I am happy to assist. And hats off to you for having the vision and making the investment to equip these future leaders in your organization. I will tell you this, succession planning is a huge miss to companies that are looking to scale and looking to grow. Because show me a company that has future leaders ready to lead, and I'll show you a company that means business with scaling. So hats off to you, Mike. And I love the conversation around composure. This is especially important for new leaders. These low-tenured leaders that haven't really got branded by the leadership fire just yet. They're coming into this leadership role because they were a great peak performer. They did it all well. They wouldn't think of all the crazy that is potentially coming as a new leader, how people are going to react, test them, how people are going to respond. And sometimes being a new leader, you get tested because people are literally just testing the boundaries of how far can we take these things. Composure is critical for the mentor that's out there, for the entrepreneur, the senior leader that's out there that maybe has a similar program as Mike. Don't lose sight of these soft skills. I think oftentimes companies that have great leadership cultures, they do the blocking and tackling of leadership pretty well. But it's in the soft skills that I have found that the greatest of leaders thrive. And they're just not taught well to these up-and-coming new leaders. So don't miss sight of that. This composure thing is critical for leaders looking to make big impact, whether you're a new leader or not. We've all been tested in the tense moments as leaders. Have you ever had somebody push your buttons and maybe they pushed the last button, right? We've been there. Or have you ever felt the pressure of the job so much that you could literally feel your chest tighten and felt like you were ready to explode? Or has the pace ever been so fast that you found yourself making decisions without even really thinking clearly? Maybe it's just me. But I'll bet if you're listening to this show, you can identify with those things because they happen to us on this journey, and you're not alone. The leadership journey is filled with many challenges for us to navigate. The key is to gain control of your mind and your perspective. Always remember, it's rarely the load that weighs us down. It's how we carry the load. We've all seen that, child that's just blowing up. They're upset. They're over there in the corner just wailing, crying, throwing the biggest tantrum you've ever seen. And you go over to find out what's going on, and the whole problem is that they can't get their shoe tied. And for you, it's like, what's the problem here? Are we talking about tying a shoe? Come over here, I'll take care of it. Well, to you, it's not a big problem. But to them, it's the world. To you, it's not a big problem because you've already passed that test. But in that moment, that child lost composure. Now, I'm not saying leaders are children, but what I am saying is sometimes When you've been in leadership a while, you've been exposed to a lot more. When the adversity comes, you just carry the load differently. You're more composed, you're more battle tested, right? If you don't find a way to rise above these kind of tensions, these scenarios will certainly diminish your ability to inspire and guide your team in an effective manner. Nobody needs, a leader that is irrational or lashing out or responding emotionally. Although, look, I could write a small book on how many mistakes I've made doing that. What we know is that emotional intelligence, composed communication, and thoughtful decision making are the cornerstones of strong leadership. So how do we gain control when everything feels like it's unraveling? Well, it's really 3 simple steps. Maybe not easy, but simple. Pause, reflect, respond. That's it. And Mike, this is going to be great teaching because it's easy to understand and it's easy to role play. The pause, reflect, respond approach is a great way to deliver effective communication and decision making that helps you navigate these challenging situations with perspective. It helps you gain perspective. It helps you navigate with emotional intelligence. It emphasizes deliberate action over this impulsive reaction, and it's very effective in high pressure or sometimes these emotionally charged scenarios, which we all are going to fall victim to. So let's break down these steps. Step 1, you pause. The first step is critical because it allows you time to think and avoid running the risk of saying or doing something that most likely you're going to regret. As a leader, have you ever said something and are like, I can't believe I said that. I lashed out. I didn't really mean what I said. Well, guess what? You are a human being. You do have emotions. People will try your patience and sometimes will respond in an irrational way. That's why we pause. We take a moment, stop, take a breath before reacting to this situation. This short pause can prevent these knee-jerk responses driven by stress and frustration, especially when you know you're right as a leader. Now you're just ready to pounce on somebody, right? Think about the last time that your emotions were triggered. Think about it. Hopefully, it wasn't yesterday, right? But it happens a lot. But think about it. You start feeling your blood pressure rise, right? Your adrenaline starts going strong. You may even feel a tightness in your chest. These are your indicators that it's time to pause to avoid what might be irrevocable damage. This brief pause creates space to start capturing awareness. So how do you go about this? Take a deep breath. Count to 3 or 100 if you need to. And depending on the situation, you may need to even walk away, physically, literally do it. In the episode When Tempers Flare, I literally talk about this scenario where I told this person on my team, we need to go separate ways for a minute because I could tell I was about to blow. So once we have this pause, we start to rationalize, which takes us to step 2, which is reflect. Once you have paused, you now need to take a moment and you need to reflect. Now you can look at the situation objectively, assessing both the facts, what actually happened, and feelings, which come by being a human being. You can do this before you respond. You're taking a moment here to understand the context and the perspectives of everybody involved. By the way, you are a human being. I know you're a leader. I know you're in charge. I know you have more leverage and a bigger voice and all of these things. But guess what? You might be wrong. It's possible. So let's not respond too fast. Let's reflect first. Reflection gives you a moment to evaluate any potential biases that you might have, as well as the impact of your response. Not to mention the needs of the other person in the moment. We can't lose sight of the target audience here, which is the person that's involved in this with you. There's always 2 sides to every coin. You might be the problem. It is possible. So ask yourself, when this happens, when you're in this moment of reflection, what is really happening here? Why am I getting so emotional? Why am I feeling this tightness in my chest? Ask yourself this question. What's the desired outcome that I want to achieve? Now we start thinking logical versus I'm going to inflict pain and I'm going to be right. Now I'm putting a logical outcome, which is usually helping somebody get better, helping the mission move forward, whatever it might be. And how about the other person's perspective? Are we asking how are they feeling and what might they need? Is there something going on that I can't physically see? Should I be looking into that? Is it possible that there is something? Before I get too emotional, I have to reflect. Before I give a response, I have to reflect. Once I've had a chance to process this and ask these internal audit questions, then I can go into respond. Now that you've gained your composure through your pause, and you've had a moment to reflect, the odds of saying something with impact that is meaningful is much more likely. Now it's time to respond. Choose a response that aligns with these desired outcomes that you thought about in your reflection. What we want here is we're shooting for clarity. We're shooting for empathy, because this is always a sign of a leader that is thinking of others above themselves. Always remember, in leadership, we don't need to be right. We're chasing what's right. You may even want to consider responding with a question versus a statement when possible. I talked a little bit about this in When Tempers Flare. When we're asking questions, we're collaborating. Doing this will help you gain clarity. And questions are so collaborative. They help bring down the walls of defensiveness. The likelihood of somebody becoming defensive when you're asking questions goes way down, because what a question says is, I'm seeking to understand. Thoughtful responses in this last piece, they help you build trust. They resolve conflicts and they strengthen relationships. So tying this all together, let's just say this example. You have an employee that just turned in some shoddy work on an important project and an assignment that you gave them. Inevitably, this is going to happen to every leader on the planet, right? You pause. Before reacting with frustration, take a moment, breathe, compose yourself, and then reflect. Consider, why did the work fall short of your expectation? Was my deadline unrealistic? Did the employee lack resources, training, or clear guidance from me? Was I moving too fast because I just needed a desired outcome? Did I set the table well for them? Did I fail to set clear expectations? Now I'm having this moment of reflection, but then I can go in to respond. Then we approach with curiosity and openness. Hey, Brad, I noticed the project didn't meet expectations. Can you walk me through the challenges you faced? Hey, let's figure out how we can address this together and get this train back on the tracks. That's it. 3 simple steps that can completely change how you lead. By intentionally creating space between a challenge and your response, you're building trust. You make better decisions, and you lead with clarity and a whole lot more composure. Think of this technique like a camera. When you pause, you steady the camera. When you reflect, you start to adjust the focus. When you respond, you capture the perfect shot. Every interaction is a chance to create a picture worth remembering. Here's my challenge for you this week. Identify one moment in your day where you typically react on impulse. Whether it's a tough meeting that you're in, a family conversation sometimes, or even responding to an email. When it happens, pause, take a breath, reflect on your goals for that moment, and then choose your response. Notice the difference it makes. Hey, I appreciate you, Mike. Thanks so much for the great question. I hope this episode serves your leadership team and those leaders, those future leaders that you're grooming, to stay composed. And as always, listener, if you have a question that you would like to have answered on the show, be sure to email us at info@jeffhancher.com. If the content from the show is adding value to your leadership journey, it would mean the world to me if you would take a moment, like it, rate it, leave a comment in the review from wherever you stream the show. Doing this gives us a tremendous opportunity to get the message out to more people. Until next week, make sure to pause, reflect, and then respond, and never stop turning the pressure into potential.
The Champion Forum Podcast with Jeff Hancher. Lead, inspire, win.